Welcome to my channel. My name is Herman Chen, and this is where I share information about how blockchain technology could be used in an enterprise environment. This is the second video in this blockchain tokenization series I'm making. In the last one, I talk about what tokens are, the different standards, how they can be created and deployed, and I promise to identify and discuss a business scenario where tokens or NFTs could be used in an enterprise environment. In this video, I would like to lay down the context of a climate change issue we are all dealing with, either as individuals or as employees of a company that we work for, maybe as business owners, or as consumers who are making purchasing decisions, or even as investors who decide which company to allocate our capital into. A little bit different this time. I won't discuss much about technology and really want to devote our time together to talk about the background of carbon credits, what carbon farming is, how they came about, some industry lingo, news, and challenges. Without further ado, let's see some climate change data. In the previous slide, all of us saw the different pledges companies made. So what prompted that? Allow me to go back, go way back thousands of years before present dates. This is the chart of the global atmospheric carbon dioxide concentration from climate.gov. Scientists were able to find out and calculate from geological samples about carbon dioxide concentration back to those dates. And as you can see, the range always oscillated between a little below 200 to the peak of 300. But look at today's concentration. It is 414 ppm, parts per million. What happened? Well, industrialization. We can see from this chart that after industrial revolution happened, the CO2 concentration kept going up and it didn't come back down anymore. There's no oscillation. Currently, we are sitting at the 414 ppm, which is a dangerous level because carbon dioxide is the main gas in the air to contribute to the temperature rise. The difference between a 1.5 degrees Celsius rise and a 2 degrees rise might seem minute, but it actually has a humongous impact to our environment. Scientists had predicted that severe weather conditions would occur more frequently from the rising temperature. We are now seeing more evidence from recent years, such as the heat wave in Russia 2010, and it occurred in India and Pakistan in 2015 as well. Drought in California and Australia, hurricanes, and that was the goal of the Paris Agreement, and that's why you saw a lot of company pledges nowadays. And the Paris Agreement was the international treaty on climate change agreed by 195 countries. That's kind of how all this gets started. And now we see the good trend of companies becoming more accountable for their carbon footprint. Undoubtedly, ESG investing, or some of us call it sustainable investing, is a strong catalyst in this change. Now, let us get into the nitty-gritty details of how companies set out to achieve that goal. You often hear companies claim they're going carbon neutral or net zero, which basically means the organization's carbon dioxide emissions are balanced by its removal in that year. Then, of course, we need to know how to measure it. Sometimes we call it carbon accounting. In the sustainability world, we often use scopes to categorize a company's carbon output. It basically includes three different categories and includes all emissions based on everything it takes for that company to operate. We use three buckets: scope 1, 2, and 3. Scope 1 means the carbon amount this company produces through burn. Examples are usually on-site manufacturing activities like natural gas it burns to run machines or gasoline it burns to run its vehicles. It's direct emissions. Scope 2 means things that they buy, and it could be electricity the company buys, for cooling or heating, but it's generated off-site, but the company still uses it. Scope 3 would be everything else that the company needs to operate, and indirectly usually. and it's the most difficult one to measure. In the greenhouse protocol, there are 15 categories under scope 3, but not every category is relevant for all companies. Companies setting goals to achieve carbon neutrality often have multiple ways to go about it. Let's take Ford Company as an example, which is a US based car manufacturer. They have announced investing more than $11 billion into electric vehicle development and have 40% of their global car output volume be electric by 2030. They plan to use 100% of their electricity generated from renewable sources by 2035. They plan to use more recycled materials such as recycled plastics and bio-based materials in their production process. So there are a lot of creative options. That being said, purchasing carbon credits is still one of the most common ways companies use to achieve their own carbon neutrality goals. It's hard to say the exact percentage of how many S&P 500 companies purchasing carbon credits, as it varies over time, and they might not disclose it. But we would notice it's a considerable amount of companies doing that. The way how carbon credit works has an inner problem. First, it's about data quality. Currently, when a company buys carbon credits, it's a challenge to trace which projects these credits originate from. How reliable is that? What's the quality of these credits? The chain of ownership of this credit is often not very transparent. Besides, carbon credits are usually sold in large blocks, and there are brokers in the market which breaks this up in smaller chunks and sell it in open markets. This opened up loopholes for fraud. If you look it up from the internet, you'll be able to find a fairly well-known case back in 2008 in Europe with the ETS system, which is emission trading system. The idea behind it is a simple cap and trade system. EU sets a cap on the amount of carbon each company from different sectors could produce. Companies that did not use their entire allowance could sell the surplus, while the other ones that have exceeded their limit could then buy more to offset the amount of carbons that they produce. It was also possible to purchase international credits from emission-saving projects from abroad. The case happened when some individuals set up shell companies to buy and sell carbon credits outside Europe and pocket the cash which is supposed to be paid for VAT tax. This went on for about a year, and then the estimated damage was about 1.6 billion euros. So back to our original topic, how does all this related to blockchain? Blockchain as a technology is rightfully fit to solve some of the issues we just discussed. Chain of ownership, transparency, and even fractionalization. In the next video, I would like to introduce some of the projects that have started to address these issues we discussed. I hope you can share this video with your friends and colleagues, as all of us are responsible for making this environment a better place for us to live in. Thank you.